I committed revenge porn on the love of my life, me, M35, her, F33, I recently have done the unthinkable. Something I never wanted to do. I was moving from the West Coast to the East to be with her, leaving everything I knew and loved just to be with her and her family. But when I was there to visit before the move, I found out she was talking to some guy behind my back after promising she'd delete him and many other guys. She then proceeded to defend this guy, and it made me sick to my stomach. I ran outside with my suitcase walking aimlessly, and she never went to check for me. She did eventually came out after I called her on the phone. It felt like the biggest walk of shame. We arrived at her house again, and she coldly proceeded to purchase a plane ticket home for me and an Uber ride to the airport. At this point I was so broken and in turmoil I just wanted to die. The Uber ride and walk through TSA felt like the biggest walk of shame, and I felt so sick to my stomach, especially after realizing I constantly were ready and arrived at the realization that I was ready to give my life for her and move coast to coast for her. I started seeing red and slowly becoming the devil himself as I kept arguing with her via text on the plane. She kept defending him even though she has lied to me about him. I was so enveloped in rage, embarrassment, and sickness I told her that I was going to send her nudes to him to make her feel what I'm feeling. She then sent me screenshots of her conversations with him while they both were laughing and bonding over my pain and bluff. That was the tipping point. I told myself once I do this, there's no coming back, and that I will be content killing myself for doing this most despicable thing. And so I did. He received it, saved it. After she told him not to view it and just delete it. He betrayed her, and she blocked him. She then also blocked me. I struggled with suicide ideations the moment I landed back on the West Coast. A week passed and my ex forgave me and we tried to work things out. But each day looking at her and talking to her makes me feel sick. At times I want to slit my throat or jump off the 40-floor building where I live. She trusted me and I defiled her. We recently broke up for good now. I am now in therapy, and my therapist suggests me taking psych meds just to stabilize the suicidal thoughts chemically from this guilt. I've had history of 2 other attempts in my life before over a breakup, both ending in ER and ICUs. I still feel the constant guilt. I can't eat, I can't sleep. The only thing that's keeping me from slipping away to the pavement from this guilt is my tuxedo rescue cat that always comes to me and lays on my chest to purr during these suicidal rushes. Is there redemption in being a good person? How did 27M get my girlfriend 25F to communicate better? I apparently hurt my girlfriend's feelings by accident. My GF and I have been together for 2 years now and just started living together. It's going great. Now, when I met her she was still establishing herself, but my career was established. She was just working at the mall and I met her while she was working and we clicked. She still is, but she wanted to better herself, so she went to community college and will be transferring to a 4-year this fall. Her goal is to be an occupational therapist. A couple days ago she asked me how I feel about community college graduating, and I laughed. This is where I hurt her feelings and she didn't tell me. I said they do that as a genuine question. Apparently they do. She said she thinks she will go to hers. I specifically asked her if this is one of those boyfriend things where you want me to come. She said no, it's just community college. I laughed thinking she was joking and said when you get your bachelor's and finish OTA school she won't be able to stop me from coming. I thought everything was normal until her sister called me and said just between us that I really hurt her feelings. I told her I have no qualms with going to the graduation, but apparently I made her feel low. It's just I know she's going to great and be an occupational therapist one day. I wouldn't be with her if I thought that was all she's going to do. I don't see why this has hurt her feelings, but I'll go if it's such a big deal to her. All in all, this could have been solved if she communicated. So how do I talk to her without letting her know that her sister told me what happened? I'm at work, so it might be a bit before I reply. Thanks in advance. Am I the butthole for forbidding my girlfriend from doing household chores? A few years ago, while putting together furniture, my 26M girlfriend, 27F, injured her wrists from using the screwdriver. We ended up getting her some wrist braces until the pain went away. We eventually checked with a doctor who said it was no big deal. Since then, I've slowly forbidden her from doing chores around the house. I noticed that doing these chores, sweeping, scrubbing, cleaning dishes, etc., would consistently agitated her wrists and she wouldn't be able to work on her actual job, small handmade crafts that require a lot of wrist usage. I kept seeing the pattern of her straining her wrist on chores, bail out on her job after an hour or two and have to wear her wrist brace until the next day. She does love her job and when things go well can happily work up to 6 hours a day on her crafts, so since I can't do her job for her, I want her to be able to focus on it. I have no problem doing these chores, but today I caught her scrubbing a pan when I just reminded her yesterday to leave them alone and told her to call me if I'd missed one, and I would have hustled over to do it. She told me I'm being overbearing and that she's fine to scrub a pan, but I don't want her getting injured or develop worse long-term damage. Edit, some clarifications, I should have put forbidding in quotes. I can't really stop her from doing anything besides maybe chiding her afterwards. I'm not her dad, LOL'd. I have shown her this thread and she agrees my version of events is more or less accurate, but she still feels she's right. Would I be the butthole for telling my daughter to stop pushing for a relationship that's never gonna happen? I have 6 kids, Lizzie 16F, Haley 14F, Mark 10M, Jada 9F, Alan 6M, and Toby 4M. Lizzie and Haley are from a previous relationship while the rest are with my current husband. When Lizzie was born, I never felt a real connection to her the way most mothers feel with their children. I couldn't explain it, but instead of love or joy, I just felt indifference. My mother told me that she felt the same when I was born, but once I was a toddler she felt the motherly love for me she was supposed to. I waited for that and it never happened. My whole life I haven't felt parental love for her the way I have my other kids. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but not in the deep way a mother usually loves her kids. Ex-husband and I eventually got divorced and I met my current husband. We expanded our family and I have never been happier than I have with this man and my kids. Lizzie and Haley are split custody with my husband, with them usually going every other week to his house. Unfortunately, Lizzie never liked my new husband. I did everything I could to get them to get along, and we even went to family therapy, but nothing worked. It's more than just a simple "you're not my dad" kind of thing. She full-on hates him, which makes me so sad. She won't even be in the same room as him without me there, which makes him sad too. Lizzie has also defied us more as she's gotten older and it's stressful. I don't have any problems with Haley, but Lizzie I feel is too much for our family. She loves her siblings of course, but things are tense otherwise. Now, for the incident that led to everything falling apart. Mark had gotten suspended from school for getting into a fight with someone else. He said it was in self-defense and I believe him, but it's still not an excuse to risk getting suspended for it. Husband and I yelling at him for it, and Lizzie stepped in and got in my face, telling me that I shouldn't talk to her brother that way. I told her to stay out of it because how my husband and I handle parenting is none of her business, but she refused to back down. My husband began arguing with her and she told us both to go *CK off, and things got a bit out of hand. My husband stepped back and I got angry at her for mouthing off at me like that. Things are a bit hazy here, but it ended with me calling her dad and telling him to come get her. I told her to pack her necessities and that she can get the rest later, but she needs to go now. She has been living full-time at her dad's for a couple weeks now. Things have definitely cooled off, but this made me change my perspective in some ways. Lizzie has been trying to reconcile. She doesn't have her phone, we never let her have her phone at her dad's, but my ex-husband has been keeping me in the know about it all, and she says she wants to apologize and make things right. She even wrote a letter to me asking to talk. I honestly don't think I want a relationship with her anymore. After all this, I just don't think it's worth it. I haven't responded, but my ex-husband wants us to try reconciliation and even offered to pay for family therapy. My husband agrees with me on not letting her back into my life. We'll allow her to see her siblings, but I don't want anything to do with her, honestly. Unfortunately though, she hasn't gotten the hint and is still pushing for us to reconcile. We've had incidents like this before where she was sent to her dad's full-time for a while so we could cool off, but I think this time might be for good. The courts aren't involved in our custody, so there's no problem there, but I can't get her to stop and leave me alone. I am planning to let her know that I don't want a relationship with her anymore and that she should let it go. Am I the butthole for my sister not coming to my wife's baby shower? This will be my wife and I's first child. My sister has multiple children. My wife requested that the shower be kid-free, but husbands are invited. I could have gone either way, but if that's her preference, I'm happy to support it. It makes sense to me, as I had never heard of kids being invited to a baby shower. When I told my sister about the baby shower, I hadn't gotten to the point where I told her it was kid-free. Immediately she told me she'd be bringing 2 of her children. Also, one of her kids has a competition, so she wouldn't be able to stay the whole time. I told her, so, we're going to have a babysitter that day which will pay for to watch any kids that people bring along. I thought that was super generous. She responded by shouting with, "I don't want to do that." It felt rude and inconsiderate. I dropped it and figured we'd revisit later. We saw her in person. She was being really snippy that day. She said, "So my time at the shower is going to be a little crunched. Kid A has a competition in the morning and I want to catch part of it. Kid B has a swimming lesson at 4 p.m. So, I'm already crunching the math, including distance, that it doesn't actually leave her any time to actually be at the baby shower." Then she starts grilling my wife. She goes, "When are you gonna stop making these kid-free events?" in a snarky tone. Then she grilled her because her kids are always the exception, blah blah. She keeps eyeing me for support, but she was being so goddamned rude to my pregnant wife. I just said, because it's a no-kids event. I then walked away and my wife handled it diplomatically. My sister was pissed the rest of her time there but said nothing. In between, I had already discussed the situation with my wife. If it were super important to my sister, we would consider it and probably say okay as long as she can guarantee that they won't be a distraction. However, we would only go about considering it if my sister asked nicely just once, since every time it was mentioned it was rude and came out like a demand. I was hopeful that either agree to the sitter or ask nicely. Then a few days back I got a text that amounted to, "It would be too upsetting for the kids to have to stay at home with a babysitter while I go to the shower. So I talked it over with my husband and we won't be attending. Kid A also has a competition the following day too, so we won't be able to come by on Sunday either. Sorry. I'll send a gift." I was pretty hurt by this. I wrote her back and told her I was very disappointed with her prioritization and I don't feel like I am a priority to her. I haven't heard from her since. She has a history of causing issues anytime something big is going on for me. Meanwhile, I am at anything of hers that matters, barring extreme circumstances. Never did I think suggesting a sitter would have caused this. I'm extremely disappointed. So, am I the asshole for not allowing my sister's kids at the baby shower?